guys, we got this. Let's go. Gun white trip sweep. Pros X go. On one. Ready?
Hey.
What's going on, everyone? ANCAP24 here, and I love to talk about Madden 26 today. I was able to go to a event with EA where we got to see the game early, get our hands on it and play, so I can give you my reaction, my impressions. We are watching the trailer that came out, and it is something that I want to make sure that I kind of give my thoughts on. And as we watch this trailer, what you're going to see is the biggest thing that I got through it was the way the game felt. What I mean by that, this isn't about gameplay, about presentation, about making sure that the quarterbacks felt exactly like their own selves, right? They had the signature releases, signature traits to where, you know, one guy's can play a little bit more frantic, one guy's going to scramble a little bit more, one's going to be more of a pocket passer. Their bodies looked a lot differently, where they had their bodies were a little bit more lean, a little bit less bulky, like a Jared Goff. You can see the weather was a big component in what you're seeing here in the trailer, where you're going to be able to slip in the rain. You can see snow was a lot more realistic. Wind came into play. Coaches had different gear, like you saw the puffer jacket there with Sirianni. Just in general, when you looked at this game, the first thing that stands out to you, especially what they wanted to show in the trailer, was the players felt like the players. Okay, now is that anything more when it comes to gameplay? No. We're going to get to gameplay later in this video. You can see they got mascots and walkout themes and basically everything that you would see in there. You see that jump pass by Caleb Williams. You see that Neighbors was making that run. And then you can see here as they go through it, they look at the built in the schemes. They had all this data from, the playbooks, and they basically brought that in to make sure that they had new plays and basically able to kind of bring that to the game. So let's go ahead and actually talk about what's new in the game, what they put in the gridiron notes, what is something that you guys are able to go ahead and kind of expect, and stuff. Whatever I get able to talk about, I'm going to jump into that now. So now let's dive into the gridiron notes, and anything that they mention in here, I can give you my impression of what I know and what I saw and how I felt, a little bit more in detail than what they could put on this page. As long as they've gone ahead and announced the feature, I can give you a little bit more in detail on what that was and how it was, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at it. First thing is really just kind of introducing the game, the gameplay. You can see that this first thing that they talked about is really just talking about how real life players, how they move, how they look, how they feel. They wanted to bring that game day experience, right? You saw it with lighting, you saw it with snow, you saw it with basically the rain, how players react in situations. Josh Allen's going to scramble a little bit more and lower his shoulder, where Lamar Jackson's going to, basically be a little bit more elusive on the run. You're going to see that, there's going to be quarterbacks that are going to hold on the ball to the last minute every single time, because they're always going to be, throw first. And you saw the jump pass by Caleb Williams, all that type stuff. They really captured that really, really well. When you actually saw the game and felt it, it really sees that they made a really big jump to get the game to be feeling more like college football, in my opinion. And I know that's kind of a weird take, but college football made you feel like you're in the game, made you feel like the crowd was involved, it made you feel like the stadium walkouts and all the traditions. You felt that a lot more in Madden, and I think that was what they were trying to capture in this first bullet point. Now, quarterback DNA, we talked about that a little bit more. You can see that they've got more than 500 new quarterback animations. And that's really giving them the opportunity to capture the player you want, right? Animations starting from, how their footwork is in the pocket. Kyler Murray is going to be a player that's going to be a little bit more of a scatterbug, and where, with a different player like Mahomes, he's got that little bit more of a scoot, and then he's always looking downfield, and he can have his arm released in a lot of different places. They really did capture that. We talked about that a little bit there. And, basically the ability to kind of drop your arm, throw it. They mentioned here, with Lamar Jackson or Matt Stafford, where they're throwing in a spot that is able to be basically an open window, creating that throw with their arm, animation that way. Coach's DNA is definitely something that's a little bit interesting. There's something that they're basically going to give you a little bit more of a opportunity to look at, how different coaches would tell you what to do, or how they're supposed to do it. Like, so if you're playing in a solo game where you're playing against the computer, if you go against a Dan Campbell, he's more likely to go for it and fourth down. You're going against somebody like Andy Reid. He's going to have a little bit more, play calling that's going to keep you guessing what it's going to be. A lot more, RPOs, a lot more motions, a lot more opportunities to not be like a Jim Harbaugh who's going to run the ball and basically try to pound the rock at you. Right? It's going to be something that's going to be kind of what the coaches. Data is over the years, their tendencies to go for it on third, fourth down. Are they more run pass? Are they more let's air it out? Let's feel the defense out. They take all that data, and it really is going to feel like you're playing that team when you're playing against the computer. Okay, that's the best thing I could tell you. There was a lot of love in that area when it comes to you play franchise, you play games against the computer. They want it to be where it's more lifelike, right? People that are settling for 3 every single time with the Lions and it's fourth and inches. That's just not going to be the case anymore, right? They're going to be aggressive, and that's really where that came into play. Now let's get down to the wear and tear. That is something that everybody really liked in college football. It's now bringing into Madden. Now I do want to make sure that you do see that's going to be something that's going to be less on a one-on-one game basis online, where that's going to come into play. It's more like something that's going to be over time, like you see in college football. So this more like, CFM or whatever the case may be. Whether it's going to be something that's going to be like in Ultimate Team, that's something that we're going to have to wait and see. They did not mention, that it was definitely something that we felt at least our impression on it, that was going to be in your season play and all that type stuff. So I'm not 100% sure on that one. There was not anything that was given to us in a sense that said, hey, 100% this is going to be in this or this. But we do know that it's going to be something that was designed for an over the time type of scenario. So that's why my belief it might only be in the season's play. When it comes to franchise and whatnot. Football weather, right? Something that coined by Madden himself. That was his thing. This is football weather. Well, that's what they brought in there, and I am telling you that was probably one of the coolest things to see is actually how they got this. The presentation team, I put my hats off to them. This is not something that I totally usually care about. I'm an X and O's guys. I want to know how cover 3 reacts. I want to know how Palms is playing a 4x1. That's how I judge the game. But you can't miss it. What I mean by not missing it is like snow comes up. The footsteps are a lot different. It's just the way that the game is playing right now. It's going to make the experience a lot better. We talked about it when it comes to playoff football. You're going to be able to see that a lot more when just not just the way that there's snow on the field and it's the same patterns. This is just something that depending what your players do. So if you want to see the real life conditions that you would get in the playoffs, you want to get one of those cold weather teams like Buffalo, and you want to get home field advantage because you're going to see that in this situation. Foundation of football. Okay, so this is what they're saying here. They're basically double downing on core principles, giving more depth and control. Explosive locomotion, run of class blocking, defensive zone coverage physics, new mechanics. They heard our feedback, right? So the first thing that you see here, someone who runs a 4-2 is going to feel like they run a 4-2. My thoughts on this is that college football was definitely a faster game than that. And they want to get back to having Madden be exactly the same feel as college football when it comes to speed and explosiveness. Now, when I played, I will tell you, I saw this most in when you're running back got the ball and he got a handoff. He hit that hole a lot quicker. His acceleration was a lot quicker. Somebody makes a cut, on a pass, say on a slant, and they catch the ball. It felt like they didn't lose momentum and they had that explosiveness when Tyreek Hill was going to get somebody that, say, a 4-4, 4-5 type of corner, and he's running. He's going to have a little bit more opportunity to separate where you didn't feel that all the time. You felt it in, basically throw the ball over the top and eventually your guy's going to win. That's just straight line speed. Here it felt like it was more of a when your guy got the ball originally, that acceleration really kicked in, and then the speed went on top of it. I got limited play on each of these players, but that's how I felt what it was. The game speed was a lot more like college football last year. I don't think it 100% got to that same speed, in my opinion. But you got to remember, I'm playing Madden Ultimate Team 99's overall speed. And then when I go ahead, and I think this is what everybody sees every year, is that we end up going ahead and looking at regs and it comes out right away, and you got guys that are in the 80s and low 90s. You don't get 99s all the time, so the game feels slow. That was not the case in Madden 26. In regs, the game did not feel slow. So my guess is that it probably is very similar, or if not the same as college football. But because my mindset is right now Ultimate Team versus regs, this is the first year that I said the game did not take a huge step backwards in speed when we made the transition. So that's a great thing when it comes to the way the game's playing, but it wasn't overdone. I'm on record saying that I felt that college football was too arcadey. I felt it was too unrealistic in their ways of the way that basically people cut and stuff, and people loved it. I felt that Madden was much faster, but it did not feel that arcade feel, and I thought that was huge. Franchise mode, basically, I'm not going to go too much over this. You definitely talk about managing the wear and tear as part of this. Scott Hansen, really cool. He's got a new broadcast package where he's going to be able to have things on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday primetime games. You guys look at that right here. What's going to end up talking about is that they've got different packages that give a different feel for each game. So on Sunday, it's going to feel like Sunday Night Football. Monday is going to feel like Monday Night Football. Thursday is going to feel like Thursday Night Football. Scott Hansen's gonna, the red zone guy, gonna be a lot more into talking about different features. I don't know if they 100% announced it, so I'm gonna leave it out at that. But it's really a cool thing there. Presentation, we've talked about this a lot already. Like, this is to me where they hit a home run. When I says, and they made it feel like, what, if college football can do this, we could do this in Madden. That's how I felt. The stadium lighting, the way that basically they go ahead and they put the field to match what's going on in the game. So they talked about it here, which is really, really cool. Head coaches talked about how they go ahead and have T-shirts rolled up, or you saw in the trailer where they had Sirianni in basically the puffer jacket at cold. You saw that they had the Minnesota Skull Chant or the Baltimore Light Show. Really saw a lot of that stuff. Something that want to talk about when it comes to what it is. When the Buccaneers are the creamsicles, right? Those orange colors. They're going to have the field and everything around the field. They do a whole package in the NFL. I go to the game every year. I'm a Falcons fan, and I see that when I live in Florida, so I go to the Tampa Bay game. Last year, they were in the creamsicles, and they had the logos that were on the middle of the field or in the end zone were all creamsicles. The outside type of signs and different things were all creamsicles. They made the whole stadium creamsicles. That's basically how it was. When the Bengals are in their whiteout uniforms, right? They're going to have different things on the field that are matching that. The actual end zones are going to have all whites. They really said, what? If it's in the game, I know that's that catch line. They want to bring it in. I can't tell you enough how the presentation team took this up a notch. Now, these are all great things. Trust me, it's not what drives my engine. To me, again, it's about gameplay. This is the presentation is what it is. But I will tell you that I appreciate the hard work that they put in to get this right for the people that love this, right? So we're gonna get into gameplay again. Kind of show you what they did, but I want to make sure that I give props where I can, right? Superstar mode, they definitely put some time into it. They're talking about how every developer has different projects, and the developers that have the projects that they can talk about. The guy that spoke about Superstar, I have full confidence that this is the mode that you are most looking forward to. You're in good hands. I feel like the guy is so passionate about what he's doing and how he wants to take this mode to be something that not everybody plays, to a mode that you want to play. And I feel like you're going to see some strides in this mode that, if this is for you, you're going to be able to do it. And I think the thing that I really have taken out of this is you got two teams kind of working together when it comes to college football and Madden, and their ideas are now kind of going into a cohesive type of opportunity to where what works great, what people love in college football can bring to Madden. And obviously, because Madden's been around for so long that college football took a lot from Madden to put into the game, right? So, having both teams work on it really helps these modes out. And I think that Superstar is going to be one that a lot of people are going to be excited for. This year being the first building block, but it's going to kind of go further from that, right? Ultimate Team, all right? Something dear to my heart. I was asked there, and I can't get into conversations with who or whatnot, how I like Ultimate this team this year. If you guys don't know me, I'm very, very straightforward. I basically told them I thought it was one of the best modes there until, Zero Chill. You guys dropped the abilities that were needed. I think we were in a great spot for August through December. I stopped playing Ultimate Mode the last month. I think it's in the worst cases I've ever seen it. I think the out of player positions are just not real football. I feel like the game has changed to a way where it's just not X's and O's. It's the abilities are way overboard, and the ability to have baked on X factors, and it's just not realistic. Now, I'm also a realist in saying, you know what, I'm not the only one that feels this way, but there's a lot of people that don't feel this way. I feel like there's a lot of people that enjoy this time of year because they love the arcade of it. They love the fact that they've been, using, players that are actually can spin and can do a lot of things. So my, suggestions to them is like, really, let's get the ability to customize what your experience is and what you want in the game. And when it comes to Ultimate Team, um, they already were on that path. Okay, you can see here that they really talked about how they built the solo rewards different. So if you're playing solos, it's not like you're forced to have to be playing regular players head to head to get rewards like they've done in the past. So they definitely said, okay, the solo player, this is what's for you. Okay, now when it comes to players that are head to head like myself, what you can read here, they're talking about different things like their leaderboard campaigns, that they're small bite type of leaderboards so that you guys aren't going against the entire world. You're only going against some things, and then you can go ahead and get your leaders from that. But they also talked about how they've let me see if I can read it here so you can make sure we can see exactly what they said here. They've raised the content bar last year for more programs, events, and football to experience. They basically talked about let me see here. I want to make sure that I don't mess up their words. Right here. Expect to see events that look to celebrate our themed teamers out there and other events that set restraints that encourage creative team building. What I got out of that and what I got out of the opportunity that I got to talk to people is not everybody has to play the same game, and they're going to very much put a lot of emphasis in making sure there are events for as long as they can all year long is kind of what I'm hoping for. Where now, if you don't want to play somebody that has built on X factors, you can play modes that have that, or a event. I guess it didn't say modes; it said events, right? Events that you can play that. If you just want to, if you don't want to play somebody that has offensive line at out of position players, you've got events that do that. They have the ability to separate what type of experience they can give you. Now, am I promising that your experience that bothers you is going to be available all year long? No. But I do feel like they heard us. They know what people are looking for without compromising what people love, right? Just because I hate it doesn't mean other people don't hate it. So I think what they're trying to do is make sure that they give the opportunity for everybody to play the game as long as they want. For somebody who spent a lot of time, put a little bit of money into the game, made sure that when it comes to content and showing in my streaming, I want to make sure everybody sees the game for what it is. So when it comes to that, and then just to go ahead and get into end of March, beginning of May, and then into June, and say I'm done with this game, that's deflating, and they know that, and they definitely admitted that they want to do a better job of making sure that the people that don't want to play that way have the opportunity to go ahead and make sure that they have options when it comes to those months. So I am very, very optimistic. I have been one of those people in the past that have gotten excited about a game to be let down. So I do go ahead and walk on eggshells when I tell you that. but I'm just going to give you what my feelings are today, right? There are times where, promises that we felt were going to be there, or not, I don't say promises, but, when we get overhyped about a game and then we get let down because we put ourselves too high, I didn't get that feeling this year. I get this feeling that they're going to deliver on exactly what I feel I'm excited about. So hopefully you guys are excited about that as well. But let's go down to some other stuff. Pack helpers, basically, when you open up packs, they're going to talk about, being able to see, how much each card's going for. Is it something that can complete a set for you? Is it something that is the best card in the position that you have? It just kind of helps you go along to where you don't have to go back and forth to menus or look at your team, or you can kind of pick which cards you want based upon, how that fits to your current lineup, right? So they're going to talk a little bit more about Ultimate Team as they go, but you can see here the MVP bundle and all that type of stuff. This is all the information there. So that's really the deep dive, right? So, but if you really look at some of the high points that they talked about, right? Some of the things I missed. There's this play call sheets and playbooks. They talked about how many plays that they added. One of the things I got out of it was last year they gave us a really big playbook overhaul. And then midway through the year, they were able to say, hey, this is the data that we're getting, and we're seeing these are the plays that they're doing. And they can recreate these plays on the fly so much better this year and last year compared to years in the past. So we've all been, this is one of the things I talked about earlier, we've been promised in the past, playbook updates in the middle of the year, and they just didn't materialize to what we thought. Last year was the first year that I want to give their kudos, that I felt like they actually exceeded our expectations. I feel like this year could be the same way. I felt that they definitely added extra plays into the game. I felt that there's room for them to do more, to where they went ahead and are leaving some areas of, if people are doing cool things on Sundays, they want to see cool things in Madden. That's kind of what it is. If there's special things, or if you start seeing that, let's take an example by Falcons, right? I don't believe the Falcons really touched the iceberg when it came to the ability on their playbook last year, because Kirk Cousins was injured. If you guys don't know, Kirk Cousins had 0 play action passes under center to start the year until he got yanked, because he could not go ahead and basically hand the ball off and then get back into position to throw the ball. So it was very, very easy for defensive coordinators to see that as the year went on, that, hey guys, if it's looking like a run under center, sell out, right? So they weren't able to install their offense until Penix got into the offense. So if you're just looking at real life data and saying, you know what, Atlanta doesn't run the play action under center. Well, that's the furthest from the truth from the Rams coaching tree that we got our players from. So now, if you start seeing in real life that they're going to be using that play action, you're going to start seeing that more in Atlanta's playbook, and you're going to start getting more plays as the year goes on. So that's just a small example of what I expect to see. But all in all, guys, I am excited about this game. I think the trailer did not do justice when it comes to gameplay changes. So the one thing I really wanted to talk about is the way that they gave us customization in the defensive coverage. They talk about how they've got the ability to have custom zones, and think about this as kind of the counter to custom stemming up your routes. So you have the ability to adjust your depth of your zones in order to basically take it. If somebody's running something that, let's just say a bubble route, and you want to custom zone them underneath the line of scrimmage to take that away, you'll have that ability. Sometimes we saw that our hard flats couldn't get to the line of scrimmage. They could only get to a certain point. Now you can kind of, custom zone that. If you have a guy that's running a corner route that's, basically at the 20-yard, 22-yard, 26-yard, you have the ability to custom stem where you want them to go on the fly. I think that's the biggest thing. It's something that it's not zone drops to where you have to set it beforehand. Say you want zone drops on one side of the field, and you know that they come out in, say, a trips tight end, and you want to make sure that you are going to make sure that, say, they flip the play, and you want your custom zone that you had low to go higher to cover the tight end corner route. Well, you have that ability to do that not from a play call screen, to do it right there on the field, which is going to be something that's going to be really exciting, right? Basically, they talk about how they're able to align your safeties in different places for the passing strength, right? Think about how a lot of people had to do the double walk down safety where you have to get them down in the box. Well, now you can set them at different heights. You can set them at different widths. You can set them where when it talks about how you can align them to the passing strength. So you've got a bunch strong where you got four sides. If you want to get your safeties to align towards the strength of the offense, you've got that option. A lot of different customization to where you can go ahead and use settings in the game prior to you going ahead and breaking the huddle. That's going to give you a opportunity to get your defense to set up the way you want it to. And I think that's a huge upgrade when it comes to giving us the tools to take things away. Now, when it comes to other things, I really can't talk much about them because it wasn't released here. The differences in how they, basically allow us to defend things, the way that the game plays from a standpoint of, is zones better or is match better or, how's man coverage. Those are all things that even if I had that information I could have shared with you, I do believe that's subjective. It's something that I want to make sure that the game is released the way that I'm thought, this past week. But all in all, I do believe the game is in a great state right now. If they weren't able to change anything on it, I'd be excited. If they do changes, which I've talked about in the past, where we've seen the game in beta, we were all excited, and then day one, they loosened up the zones, and the zones were crap. Unfortunately, that's not something that I'm hoping that they do this year, but it is something that I worry about giving, my impression on something and then getting burned on it because, it got changed. But as of right now, I don't believe that the focus was as much on, you know, uh, adding so much to the game to where the game is completely different, but adding things in the game that we as gamers ask for in order to give us the tools to take away things at all times. Real excited about that. There was definitely enough in this game to me that Madden 26 is going to be much different than Madden 25 and then the year before. I know a lot of people think it are reskins. In my opinion, that's just not the case. I feel like that people just don't understand um, just because you're not going to use it or you're not going to think that that's something that is great. If you're a person that only runs 3 plays and the game's the same way for you. But for those that want to get the whole ability to watch it and play the whole game for what it is, this game is definitely worth looking into because the changes that they made was definitely great. So that's kind of what I want to explain to you right now. Please, like or subscribe if you haven't already. I will be able to talk more about this the more that they put out. I give you a lot more in-depth detail, not generalities that I'm doing now of how things work. If you have any questions about something I said today that you want a little bit better understanding, please put that in the comment as well, and I'll do my best to let you know what I can give you. Unfortunately, we are a little strict on absolute detail of every little thing in the game until they announce it. But I want to make sure that I gave you all I could, and that you guys have a little bit better understanding of what you guys should kind of expect when it comes to future announcements on the game. And I'd love to give you my impressions on that once they do go a little bit more in depth in gameplay. Appreciate y'all. We'll catch you guys on the next video.